What's the most underrated tool in Procreate? You might think it's the Animation Assist or Liquify or maybe the Brush Studio and all the fun updates we're looking forward to with the Procreate 5.4 update, but actually, I think it's the Selector Tool, also known as the Lasso Tool. Most people use it just to move things around or make little corrections here and there, but today we are using it as a creative powerhouse. Once you understand how to use it creatively, it becomes one of your most precise and versatile tools in your Procreate toolbox. Let's go ahead and get started creating our 4 geometric designs created using the Lasso Tool with a few other really awesome built-in tools here in Procreate. Our first geometric design that we're going to make using just the Selector Tool is actually going to be a seamless pattern. And in that seamless pattern, we're going to make some simple bubbles. So let's go ahead and get started. I have a square blank canvas here that is 2048 pixels by 2048 pixels, and it's set to 300 dpi. And this is just going to be the canvas size that I'm going to use for all of our projects today, but specifically for a seamless pattern, you do want a square canvas. And I will be using this color palette here. I've just called it Selector Geometry because we're making geometric patterns using the Selector Tool, and I have linked this color palette below for you to download for free if you would like to use the same colors when you try these projects yourself. So let's go ahead and start making our bubbles. So I'm choosing the Selector Tool, and I want to choose Ellipse and Color Fill. The color I'm going to choose from my bubbles is this sort of light blue, but it's not my lightest blue. It's just a nice little light blue. And I'm going to be placing some ellipse circles all over my canvas, and that will be the start to our seamless pattern. So there's a good placement for our bubbles, and they're not perfect. They don't all have to be perfect circles. It doesn't matter. And now let's add a little bit more dimension. So I am going to add a new layer and place a clipping mask so that when I use my Selector Tool again, what gets placed down just stays within the bounds of the shapes that I already created. And one thing that you want to make sure of is not to go over the edge. Don't overlap your circles over the edges. For now, I'm going to choose another color here. And I'm just going to choose this lighter blue. It's going to be kind of like a highlight, and I will choose my Selector Tool again and start placing some little circle highlights. So I'm liking how this is looking, and I'm just going to add another little detail. I am going to choose this white here and just place a little dot on the other side. So there's kind of like an abstract bubble. It's not a perfect bubble, and that's totally fine. And this is totally freeform, so however you want to place your ellipse tool, it's gonna look really cool no matter what you do. The last thing I wanna do is add a little bit of a drop shadow. So I am going to duplicate that first layer, and I want to fill all of these original circles with a darker blue. So to fill all of them at once, this is the best way that I know how to do that. I am going to go to my layer stack and tap on Alpha Lock, choose my dark blue that I would like to use, and I'll just use this very dark blue here. And now back to the layer stack, I will go to Fill Layer. And so now you can see in the thumbnail that it is a very dark blue, but it's hidden behind my original set of bubble circles. So now I need to move it so we can see it as a shadow. You can go any direction that you want, if you want it going to the top or going to the bottom. Just the main thing is anything that's at the edge, you don't want it to cross over the edge. And that looks pretty good right there. So I am happy with how those bubbles look. So now I am just going to pinch all of these layers together so that I can use it to create my seamless pattern. So now I'll show you how to take this image and turn it into a seamless pattern. I have some really great seamless pattern tutorials, and I'll link my favorite one here in the screen. So if you want to see a full step-by-step process of making seamless patterns, you can watch a more in-depth video on how to do that. But for now, I'm just going to show you a really quick way to do it. In order to make it seamless, and we need to create the continuous edges, and that is done by moving it from side to side and top to bottom. And in order to do that accurately, I want to make a new layer and put it below, and this is going to be my background color to the whole image anyway. but it's gonna act as a guide in moving my image to make it into a seamless pattern. So I'm just gonna choose one of these blues. This one's pretty, but it's not overly dark, so I'll just drop that in. So I like that blue right there. It looks pretty good. And now I'm ready to create that continuous edge to each of the 4 sides of our canvas. So first we're going to do the side to side, and I'm going to duplicate our bubble layer and our background layer, and I'm just going to divide the backgrounds between the 2 bubble layers. And now we're going to move them around the screen. So I'm going to select these top 2 layers, then I'll go to move and transform. And first I'll go to snapping and turn on magnetics and distance and velocity. You can turn them up pretty high, you can turn them up all the way if you want, but right there is good for me. And now I'm going to move this to one side and make sure that I get that orange line in the middle, showing me that I am in the exact center. And now I will select the bottom 2 layers and do the same and move it to the other side. And now I will take my 2 bubble layers that are now cut in half, and I'm just going to group them together so I can flatten them. And then I'll just pinch those together to flatten them. And now we're going to do the top and bottom. So I will duplicate that again and my background color again and move that to the top and do the same but top and bottom. Now our image, it has the continuous edges, and we can create this into our seamless pattern. If you want to adjust some of these little circles, you can. If you want to make it a little bit more varied, if things started lining up in a not as quite pleasing way, you can always make a few of these little adjustments. And because it's all one layer, you just want to be careful you're not picking up anything you don't want to. But if you're happy with it, you can leave it as it is. So now let's go ahead and make this into a seamless pattern. So I need to duplicate my bubble layer 3 times so I have 4 total. And same with my background color, because we still need it as a guide to move it into the exact corners that we need it to. And then again, just divide it up amongst our bubble layers. And now we're ready to move each of these into the 4 quadrants of our canvas. So I will take the first one and make sure that my transform tool is set to uniform, and then I will move that up, and I am seeing the orange crossbars, and I'll just continue that. So here is our seamless pattern made using just the selector tool. It creates kind of like a minimalist bubble look, or they almost look like blue olives or something. I don't know. I think it's really cool looking. So this is one that if you want to try out seamless patterns, this is a great way to do it. And if you want to make it easy on yourself and not do a whole lot of drawing, use the Lasso tool because it is such a great creative tool. This next project is creating a 90s kind of style pop art lightning bolt. In our color palette, the first color I'm going to choose is just this yellow, and I'll go back to my selector tool, of course. I am going to set it to the freehand selector, and I am going to turn on color fill. The great thing about the selector tool is you can use it as a polygonal lasso, so you can just tap one spot and then it will create a perfect straight line to wherever you tap next, because there are times when you can just do a freehand, but using freehand and tapping, it will create straight lines for you. So we're going to use that to create a really great lightning bolt. If you ever have trouble drawing lightning bolts freehand, use the selector tool and you'll create a really great one. Let's just go ahead and create that shape now. I'd say that's a pretty good lightning bolt. I'm just going to center it a little bit, and I am going to duplicate it 2 times, and the bottommost layer I am going to make it this dark it's a very dark blue, so I will turn on alpha lock and fill layer. And then the next layer, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll turn on alpha lock, but I want this pink color, so I will select the pink and then fill layer. And now I've got 2 hidden colorful lightning bolts, so let's move them around so we can actually see them, because we're going to kind of use them as almost like a chromatic aberration. Chromatic aberration is another tool here in Procreate that kind of makes an offset of colors, but we're going to kind of do that manually with these two layers that we created. So first let's choose the bottommost layer and select the transform tool, and I'm going to tap on distort and then just move it so it creates a shadow, but I want the points to still overlap, so that's why I'm using the distort. so I can kind of move it around, and then I can even try and get that little point back to closer to that point at the bottom. And now let's do the same thing with the pink, but do the opposite side. That's looking really good. And the next thing we're gonna do is make a background for this. So I'm just gonna add a new layer and then just move it all the way down to the bottom. And I'm gonna fill it with this purple. Now that looks really cool on its own, but I love the halftone tool here in Procreate. So I'm gonna go to Adjustments and then Halftone and tap on Screen Print and just turn up across my canvas, turn up my halftone to pretty big, and it makes a really big, bold halftone. And I swear this could be like an album cover. I think this is so cool. 90s style pop art. I am an 80s and 90s kid, and that's probably why I like it so much, but I think it looks really cool. But let's do one more thing. Let's take this first top layer and we're gonna turn this into a halftone as well, just to add a little bit more of that vibe. And we'll just set it to full color. And there we go. That looks so cool, guys. And it's just using only the tools here in Procreate. You got to try this. So now I want to show you how you can make some really cool isometric 3D squares. The first thing we need to do is set up a drawing guide with the isometric grid. So let's go to Actions and then Canvas and Drawing Guide, and then Edit Drawing Guide. And we're gonna tap on Isometric, and we need our grid size pretty big. So I'm gonna go down to grid size and just make it so that it's pretty big, and then these lines on the outside are as close as possible to the edge. There we go. Okay, so here is our isometric drawing guide. So now we're gonna create a 3D box. So it doesn't matter, we'll just choose this hexagon right here in the middle to create our square. I'm going to use these blue tone colors right here and just choose whichever ones that I like. It doesn't matter which ones, but I think I'm wanting to do like a light blue, a medium light blue, and a dark blue. I have a lot more blues here. I'm not going to use all of them, but they're all there if you want. So for the top part of the square, I'm going to choose this very light blue. And so it's okay if you want to squeeze up tight so that you can get precise. And I'm just going to tap right here in the very top corner, that corner, this corner, this corner, and then back in the middle. So that is the top of our square. And we will let that go. And it's pretty precise. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. So let's go ahead and do the next side. So I am going to grab this medium blue. So it's kind of shadowed, kind of gives you a perception that it's a shadow to a geometric box. And we will just tap in all of these corners and then just close it up again. And so you can kind of see our box forming, and we'll finally get that dark blue and place our final edge. So you can see how it looks like a 3D box now. And so let's go ahead and make a pattern with all of these, and it's gonna look really cool. And so to do that, I'm just going to duplicate this. So we'll just keep on duplicating and moving these across our canvas to make kind of a seamless pattern, but not really a seamless pattern. So there are a couple gaps here and there, but that is okay. This is just for fun and just to show you how you can make a really cool 3D geometric design using just the Lasso tool, and in this case, the isometric grid for a really awesome pattern. This last project we're going to make is a bit like our 3D boxes that we made before, but now we're gonna make 3D chiseled squares, and we are going to use the drawing guide again, but we're not gonna use the isometric grid, we're gonna use the normal grid. So let's go ahead and set that up. So we'll go to Actions canvas and then tap on drawing guide and edit drawing guide again because I want a larger grid than this. I want a pretty large grid, and we'll just make it about right there. And I do want it to get as close to the edge as possible without going over, and I'll just make the grid thicker so that you can see it on the screen, and then I'll tap on done. And we're just gonna do all of our work in one square. Everything that is gonna be across our canvas is going to start with just one square. So I'm gonna choose my first color that I want to use. I'm gonna choose this kind of medium dark dusty rose, and the first thing I want to do is fill half of my square here. And this is another great way to use the freehand lasso tool, using it as a polygonal tool, because you can just tap and tap and it creates a straight line for you. And the trick is to get this in the exact corner, and if you need to try it a few times, you can, and you can even get as close as you can, and you can move the screen around while you're in the lasso tool and it won't place until then, and that's a pretty good spot right there. And then place in that corner, the opposite corner, and then close it back up again. So now we have the start to our chiseled block here. So that I don't have to be so precise again, I'm just going to duplicate this, rotate it, keep rotating it 45 degrees until it's on the opposite side. And you can see there's a little bit of a gap here, but the great part about these projects is they don't have to be precise. You can be okay with a few gaps, because I am. I'm letting you know, you don't have to be that precise, but if you want to, go for it. So now I want to change the color of this half of the square. So I'm going to use this one right here and then just drag and drop that in. So now we have the first two halves of our square filled, and now we're going to create the sort of chiseled 3D look to it. And we're just going to do it on one side and then duplicate it across to the other side again. But this part can be kind of tricky again. I'll choose another sort of medium dark rose color. We're going to create kind of like a chiseled geometric corner here. So first thing we need to do is tap in that corner again, and we can tap in this corner, and now we have to go down, and this part can be a little tricky. You might need to do it more than once. I've had to do this more than once, so I'm just going to choose as close as I can so that when I have another one of these going right here, they match in the center. So we'll try that for now and see if that worked out. So now what I need to do is I need to duplicate this and then rotate it 45 degrees, well, rotate it 90 degrees and then flip it horizontal. But now let's change the color of it so we can see how well or how not so good it matches up. So I'm going to choose this lighter color, and that matches up pretty good. There is a little bit of a gap, but I am okay with that. But now you can see how it's kind of creating a 3D effect. We have like it's kind of like it's a pyramid and that's the top, or it goes down like kind of like a dustpan, and this part is more shadowy than that part. It's just on how you want to look at it. So I'm going to group these together and then duplicate it so that I can rotate it until it goes into the opposite corner. You can have them stay that color if you want, because it is creating a contrast to make that 3D look, but I want to actually change the color. I am going to choose the vertical one and make it this lightest pink here. Matches a little bit more to that color. And then the horizontal one, we can choose this dusty rose. And there you have the first square to our chiseled 3D square. I'm just going to start flattening these layers in my layer stack and then flatten them all together so that I can start moving it around and creating our geometric pattern. So now what I want to do in order to make kind of, it's almost like an optical illusion, I'm going to duplicate this layer and then move it down below, but that isn't quite making the optical illusion image that I want. I'm going to rotate this square. And right there is perfect. These two opposite sides are touching here, and I kind of like that look. So now I am going to pinch these layers together, duplicate this again, and then move it across to these squares over here, but I'm going to flip it horizontally. And it is now the center of our pattern, and it looks really cool. So let's go ahead and pinch those together, and I am now going to duplicate and just keep duplicating and moving across the canvas so it completes the pattern. So here is our chiseled 3D blocks or 3D squares. I think it looks really cool. It kind of creates this sort of like compass pattern here, and it looks like it's been chiseled into the top of like a pyramid or something, or depending on how you look at it, it looks like two dustpans facing each other. Just, you know, how you want to view it. And there are some gaps here and there, like I mentioned. It has to do with the precision on how you place your Apple Pencil, so it just depends on how precise you want to be or how much you're just okay with it not being completely precise. And you can make your grid bigger or smaller depending on how many of these squares you want to fill. It's just a really fun way to create a geometric pattern. The selector tool isn't just for fixing mistakes. It can be a design powerhouse when you use it intentionally. It's clean, flexible, and full of creative potential. If you want another really fun way to use the selector tool, go ahead and click on this video. I'm going to show you how to make abstract art using this really awesome tool.